One line of argument will be, this is a racist country. It's misogynistic. 2 women have run for president. They've been defeated by a pussy grabber, rapist, felon. And it's a manifestation of the underlying moral indecency of the American political culture. And they've kind of reverted to form here to a certain extent. Their views about immigration, their views about crime and punishment, their views about transgender rights, and so on are, these are deplorables and these are despicables.
So you basically have one party, the Republican Party, essentially being like a fuck you to the system. To me, Trump does not represent an ideology so much as an anti-systemic candidate, and a Democratic Party that I think, and I'm curious what you think about this, I think it's mostly because of professionalization. Like literally the people who staff the party all come from basically the same class and the same series of institutions. And so they have no sense of what's actually going on in the world. Their lives are pretty good, and they were pretty good under Trump as well. So all they can offer is a negative program because they don't actually want to do things like redistribute wealth. They don't actually want to promote equity and equality. So you have the voters essentially rejecting the negative program of the Democratic Party for, again, just an anti-systemic candidate who, in my opinion, at least, doesn't have much to offer. And not only that, and I very much respect John McWhorter, as you know. I know a lot of people on my side don't, but I think John is a real thinker. Like John doesn't get the appeal of Trump, right? And it's because he just doesn't get it. And it's because it's a particular class, there's a particular way of living, it's a particular social space. And I think a lot of the people who staff the Democratic Party come from a similar position. And they're not able to actually offer a genuine program. And when a genuine program was offered by Bernie, Obama knifed him in the back. And I think, Glenn, one thing, I know you hate Obama, me too. This really destroys his legacy. Like he is now going to go down.
Myself. Yeah,
it destroys it. It's just done. The sort of fancy Disney adult vision of America that was presented by Barack Obama has been repudiated significantly twice. I would say 3 times, not only by Trump's first victory, but also by the desiccated corpse of Joe Biden becoming president, and then Trump becoming president again. I mean, this is a repudiation of the entire neoliberal, technocratic, institutionalist vision of Obama. And I think that's really the most important story of today, because liberalism is in a crisis because it doesn't have anything to offer. And if the Democratic Party doesn't address that, which it won't, because of the process of professionalization, it's going to be fucked into the future. And we're not going to do things that we need to do, like address climate change. I'm very, very black-pilled right now. I'm very, very cynical about the future of this country and this world.
Well, I don't really have anything to add to that.
Well, what would the commenters say? The commenters who are going to be mad. Like, what is the other side of this? Actually, it's fine.
Well, I mean, one line of argument, and I think in our before I started recording conversation, this came up, will be, this is a racist country. It's misogynistic. 2 women have run for president. They've been defeated by a pussy grabber, rapist, felon. And it's a manifestation of the underlying moral, indecency of the American political culture. And they've kind of reverted to form here to a certain extent. And their views about immigration, their views about crime and punishment, their views about transgender rights, and so on are, these are deplorables and these are despicables. And, I watched, who was it? Jonathan Capehart during the election returns. I happened to be on PBS looking at the roundtable with David Brooks. And, no offense to Jonathan Capehart, who's a capable guy at what he does. He expresses himself well. He is a Washington Post associate editor and regular on the news hour at PBS. And it was like, as it was becoming clear, as one commentator put it, you don't have to be a weatherman to see which way the wind is blowing. And it was pretty clear what was going on. He was like, I can't believe this country. I can't believe how they would, embrace this guy, this fascist, whatever. I mean, so it'll be that. It'll be a kind of...
But that's nonsense. I mean, this is not empirically true, right? That is just, as our friend Tyler Austin Harper says, that's just sort of like new age self-expiation. that this sort of like teach me about race thing has happened. You would then have to explain the Obama-Trump voters. You would then have to explain the Latino voters. You would then have to explain the actual change in U.S. race relations over the past 70 years, 60 years since the Civil Rights Act, right? It's obviously different. And I do agree that race remains a structuring condition of American society. And I also agree that so does xenophobia. And we should maybe talk about immigration because I think we have very different views on that. So we could argue about that. But it just seems to be like it's so obviously this is a material basis. It's so obviously linked to how Americans feel about their material future and the fact that things have become more expensive. The billionaires have become just way, way more rich. I don't know. Have you seen those statistics since like 2012? They have like exploded in wealth, and that people are just rejecting a Democratic Party that has basically made no moves to do anything about that. Then people would say Lena Khan. I mean, if you look at the problem of monopolization in this country, what the FTC did does not nearly approach what would need to be done to do things like deconglomerate or prevent private equity from coming in and destroying entire industries.
It's never going to happen.
Never going to happen because capitalism. So then we're just going to go sink further and further into, as our friend Karl Marx said, the mutual ruin of the contending classes. I mean, I don't know the last time you read the manifesto, but on the first page, that's what he says. You're either gonna have the dialectical transcendence of the conflict of the age, or you're just going to lead into destruction. And I think all of our ruling elites from the left to the right, and by left I really mean liberals because the left has just never, as a fact, I wish we could blame the left because that would have mean they would have governed. They just have never governed. So from in this country, so from the liberal quote unquote center to the right, they've just shown no willingness to deal with any of the problems. They instead just try to frame it on a basically ineffable American evil, which is to me an anti-political position. If you're writing off whatever the popular vote that Trump won, what is it going to be 51-ish%? You're just saying 51% of the country is just not reachable. They're evil fascists, blah, blah, blah. That's not politics.
So you can't see a working class coalition of any real political weight emerging in the fullness of time. I mean, it would be decades, but, you know, we have to take the long view.
So I would say
what's going on right now, it's populist upsurging. It's a rejection of the elites in some sense. He's getting a lot more minority votes than Republicans have been getting. I mean, that can't be the harbinger of a shift in the sensibility of the working class electorate. So